survives.
And that's another thing that you get into in the class, which was one of the most mind-shifting parts for me, was when you get into breaking down the differences between the minds, so under the intellectual mind versus the intuitive mind, right? And how to utilize those, which, you go into in the class, which was, for me, shifting, because at that point in time, I had never looked at the intellect in a way where it was, a mindset that was inferior.
That was inferior, right? Most people, they think that's what's getting you over here. But you got to understand, the Camites. Show me the hieroglyph where they spoke on intelligence. We're using our intellect to interpret what they were doing as that's why we don't understand the shit. What these hieroglyphs really mean. We got the gist and the idea, but there's so much that we still don't really understand, and these had double and triple and layered meanings. So we understand the gist of the meaning. Well, that means the king walks in the west, and what does that fucking really mean? The king. So we can say, looking towards the west, that's looking towards death. He's going towards death because death meant what. So you know what the symbols meant. But they were so much more complex and talked in different parts of the mind. They weren't using logic and reasoning. They were using symbology, which is what I teach in class, the big, and how to use that, at least on a level where you can activate some things magically with, because, you're taught to be raised up by your reason and your intellect. That's what this place is. In fact, the person who's the most intellectual in America is the highest paid. When you hear a doctor, as dumb as they are, you'll still say, he must be smart, he's a doctor. He must be smart, he's a lawyer. Now, my cousin, who was born with Down syndrome or some kind of shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, for 4 years of his life, he would just do his fingers like this and go, that. The shit was wild. No, that. The shit was weird. Then by 5, he just niggas started talking. Apple! Like, niggas 5. So I was like, it's a wrap. They're gonna be rolling this nigga around. That nigga's a doctor right now. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Certified MD. Dr. Keeley. Dr. Akil, still Keeley, Marsh. A doctor. So when I seen that shit, I already knew that shit was a hoax. When I seen that shit, I was like, no.
From knowing, knowing doctors, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I do know some, and I watched them go through schooling. And when I saw them go through their schooling, what I noticed more than anything else was memory. Memory was the primary.
Right.
The primary thing needed, because they teach you in med school, for instance, that when this happens, this is how you diagnose it. This happens, this is how you diagnose it. So it's not like they're being taught to...
It's not genius, it's not smart. They just have an intellectual capacity to deal with the study, the book smart.
Yes.
All that shit is. Every doctor I had to talk to says the dumbest shit in the world to me. Do you know what has more salt in it? McDonald's apple pie. They really asked me, is a McDonald's shake or McDonald's French fries? I said, bitch, I don't eat McDonald's. I don't give a fuck what they got in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, well, it was a shake. like this is so shocking. You know what I'm saying? They're telling me sodium means salt.
Great.
Yeah, bitch, it's fucking. Like she said, do you know another name for salt? I'm thinking NCCC, like the periodic table. Right. I'm there. He said, I said, well, I can't remember the period. I know it's N something like that on the periodic table. I'm really saying this shit. He said, no, sodium means salt. I mean, sodium, bitch. Get out of here. Smack your dumb face. So like, it's not like they're so smart, but they feel they're so smart from doing this that they feel everybody's really fucking dumb. They was telling Khadijah something one day, how the kidneys work. Khadijah she's like, well, then the kidneys and and then the little train goes up diddy up. She was doing this. Khadijah said, bitch, yeah, say it. What the fuck? I know. What do you say the shit, bitch? You know what I'm saying? You explaining this shit like you talking to them. I'm sure they talk to a lot of dumb motherfuckers, but dumb, and I'm sure motherfuckers ain't even that dumb They just feel that the doctor is so smart. That's this intellect thing. Lawyers, Einstein is the most brilliant man. So people with intellect get paid here. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Jill Pogram talked about it in her 7 circuits of the brain. So there's pretty much 7 circuits of the brain on black folks. First is the reptilian or the medulla oblongata. And she talked about the behavior of people who focus or whose, what's the word I'm looking for, existence is based upon the first brain. They're loners, she gave their characteristic. They're loners, they like to be alone, they fight or flight, blah, 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 blah. Second is the B brain. And she said a lot of black people are there. B brains can't operate alone. They need a hive. They need a collective to make a decision. So now you have anything from gangbangers to churchgoers to PTA members. They're nothing alone. They operate well in the group. So that's how they got us back in this B brain. And so the third is the bird brain. The bird brain is intellect. So that's the ceiling on how high the white man can go. So now that he reordered your thinking, he made you think that's the ceiling on how high you can go. So you think you're going to outsmart him with the low, and it corresponds to your chakras. These are the 3 lowest chakras. They can't get here. So she said the 4th part is actually taps into the love frequency. She said, know what gets you there? Only chemical on the planet. Weed. True THC. She said it opens up the 4th center of the brain. So when them niggas is going one love and Jah, because they was actually opening up the 4th circuit of the brain. Now she said the 5th, 6th, and 7th is clairaudience, clairvoyance, clear knowing, basically your psychic abilities. So we shut down the higher functions of the brain, which is our psychic abilities. So when I'm telling you we can get into it and everybody can do it, yes, if you got a black brain. But they don't know how to hear from that part. And then when they hear it, they funnel it through the intellect and fuck it up. And that's the sad part about it. They tell you this is more of the fall. Yeah. That's crazy. They tell you basically it's the fall because the deity Obatala coming from heaven represents the powers, and then he starts at the level of the intellect and all the way down for the rest of the guys, all the way to Legba, which represents the root chakra. You begin with Legba and all these guys up, Ogun, Shango in the solar plexus, and so on. So Oya in the throat, you know what I'm saying? I can't remember the rest. Yin and Ya also here. Oshun in the sexual. We got Shango, Ogun, Oya, Yemen-Ya. Yemen-Ya is also a little bit high because it's a mother aspect too. In what's the priest? Orunmila, I think is. I think that's the priest. Orunmila, whatever. There's the priest. That's the pineal gland. Batala. So. All that shit was science in the first place, and niggas is worshiping them like they're really up in the sky or wherever. Well, it's a fucking root chakra. Niggas worshiping the dark side. Satan's a polarity. And so is Jesus for that matter. You know what I'm saying? So this intellect thing, because they raised it up to be the ceiling on it, we fell into it. So that's why they allow us to do everything we're doing, because they understand we're not. As long as we're not using that other part of our brain, none doesn't matter. We can be as intellectual and as comedic as we want to be, but we're fighting their fight still. We're not thinking. If we bring ourselves to their level of thinking, and we're trying to save ourselves on their level of thinking, which for us looked at as a part of how we would think. But like more or less the childish part of how we would think. So we're thinking like children dealing with our advanced information and don't know how to access it based upon our thoughts, based upon where we put our energy into this information to try to reflect it. We're reflecting it from the wrong place. We're reflecting it from the intellect, and we're not reflecting it from the heart. The heart is where you know. The heart is where you know. So the knowing. So every question, as we talked about before, if every thought has been thunk, every question actually already has an answer for you. That's what we need to really understand. That's really one of the biggest keys, that there's nothing outside of you that can't be answered or satisfied. You just need to know where to listen. That's what I teach in class, how to listen to those parts that we are calling spirit. Because your heart actually can speak to you. Everything can speak to you in your body. It is just that intelligent. It's just that intelligent. So you didn't know how to speak to different parts of you. You know what I'm saying? And hear things. Now, the place that knows and houses and encompasses the whole understanding, I would have to say, is this. I mean, it's technically from your subconscious mind. That's where it's pulling from, but it's going to reflect through here, because the subconscious mind is the part that knows. It doesn't reason. It doesn't debate. It doesn't wonder. It doesn't ponder. It doesn't say this or that. It doesn't say, I like chocolate, I like vanilla. It sees it all as ice cream. It's holistic in its thought. You get what I'm saying? It sees it all as an experience, and later you figure out, was it a bad or good experience? But if it happened, it's just happening here. So your heart comes from that place. No, we don't debate. We don't know. I know what it is. I am that I am right here. So if you can start listening to that I am in you, then your answers will always be as best as they possibly could here. The most intelligent in a place where you guessing, speculating, and seemingly living off the cuff. You technically made all these choices, but if you made all these choices to come down here and go through what you're going through, that means you already knew the answers. The work is finding the answers. So, it's not the destination, it's the journey. The journey is being able to find the answers within inside of you.
And that takes courage.
With that knowing. Very much courage.
That takes courage, because
courage.
Divorcing yourself from
yourself,
using logic, yourself,
and using
logic as which was my, a lot of things that I did was definitely based on pure logic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And divorcing yourself from that way of thought first takes time and a lot of courage, because you are going to feel like you're suspended in nothingness.
Right. You're going to feel like, well, where do you come from? Or how do you even? Because that's what I could hear niggas saying right now. Well, how do you even do that? That's what's going to take a while, because you're putting on some very old shoes that you haven't worn in a while. So the techniques, I teach people, these little techniques that I'm teaching you about fairies and altars and all that, it seems like you're doing magic. But what you're doing is start to enhance this. These are nothing but symbols all around us. These symbols speak to the knowing part. When I see this symbol, I can logically look at this Egyptian head or this pan. So if I use logic, I'm saying he's Greek, he's the white man, he looks white, I see him in pictures with homos, that's where they get the devil from. I can give you every goddamn thing logically what it is. But see, here's what I do know. When I was 13, I needed a name. I asked my friend, find a name. This guy who I knew, I was 2 years old. And he just started humming and drew the word panic and said, that's who you are. That's undeniable for me. So by the time I could logically look at this, say it's white, it's Greek, and it ain't ours, which ain't even true. All that shit is ours. But let's pretend. I say all these things. I can logically shut that down. But the knowing part, the place where it came from with him, which was a knowing in him, who I know knew me before we got to this planet. We came to this planet together. That ain't no mistake. And the presentation and me just being blown away by it, all it was to write graffiti. You hear what I'm saying? So it was me. Oh yeah, I need a tag name. That makes me, if I can reason with this and say that's some white people shit that ain't got nothing to do with me. My name is Panic or whatever. Or I could say this must mean something and look at this without judgment and just pure of heart study. Pure of heart study. Now I teach the detail of this in the chakra portion of my classes, how to approach this pure of heart. But I see as black people are not approaching this pure of heart. They approach with agenda.